Now, there is... Again, the reckless renewable stuff, yesterday ignored by most of the media. Why? Because it pushes against the narrative of just this stuff appears and it's cheaper. Forget the fact that, some of the solar panels are made by slave labour in China. Forget that, the 20,000 of them that need to be put in a day. It makes you feel better as a teal, right? It makes you feel better while you're, on a penny farthing riding into the ABC or the Guardian office. I understand, right? Because they're on a high horse and even higher, and that's taller than a penny farthing. But we have this scenario where a farmer has turned around and has told us that the compensation which is being offered for people when power lines go through your property, right? $200,000 per kilometre. He's got 10 kilometres. That would turn out to be about $2 million in compensation, right?
Pretty good, just quietly.
He's sitting pretty. Well, except, guess what? You get taxed for it now, mate. And so governments will take back the compensation they give you via tax,
so
but you still have...
$1.05 million.
But you still end up in a scenario where you've got power lines you didn't want over your joint for the rest of your life, Bronwyn.
This is a perpetual problem with capital gains tax, because if there's an incident, an act which triggers a capital gains tax event as deemed by the tax office, it can be all sorts of compensations where they claim back your top marginal rate, the tax on that compensation paid. So it depends on how it's paid and how it's constructed and whether they've got any private rulings from the tax office itself. But of course, none of that has been gone into. They're just holers bolers. These are foreign-owned companies. They're not Australian, who are ripping money out of this country, ripping out of people's livelihoods and quality of life. They don't give a damn, and they're paid a subsidy. And the figure that I heard today is that for each turbine that's put up, they get a subsidy of $600,000 to $900,000 each per year. And each one of those has to be oiled. And if something goes wrong with them, the farmer is responsible for doing something about it. The ties that and the tail that is attended to this sort of stuff.
Well, big fire today in South Australia about it.
It's wicked. We are destroying this nation, absolutely destroying it, and it's got to stop.
And again,
and these people, at the end of the day, don't care if people starve to death because they think there are too many people on the planet.
Joe?
And that's the end product.
Well, Joe, I mean...
That was quite a leap, but yes.
But Joe, it's this scenario where, again, governments should come up with scenarios to be able to put this in the tax-free area. But again, it's part of that overall mix where, until they start putting wind farms on both sides of the Sydney heads, then I'll know the teals have got skin in the game. Other than that, the assumption is the bush can just
that's
take
right.
it.
Look, I think there's a genuine problem where you have the people calling for the most action on climate change. The biggest targets are the ones who pay the smallest price. And I think
usually make a quid out of it.
And often make a quid out of it because they're often all the
or at least they're donors.
Startup industries. But I've got to say, $200,000 for a kilometre of power, like that seems like a pretty good deal to me. And I think,
but it ain't your backyard. It's the fields you tend.
Yeah, but you can tend underneath them. But
well, no, you can't. In some of them, the lines are literally too low that you can't even use your own machines around places like Ballarat.
There was that one case. But what I understood it to be was that it wasn't in capital gains tax. It was whether or not this would be accessible as income tax, which would put you in the 45% category, which is why they're...
But Joe, that's what capital gains tax is. Capital gains tax, when you make that capital gain, is treated as income for that financial year.
Oh, right, sorry.
So you are paying income tax at your top marginal rate.
Anyway, again, so it's just 1.1 million.
I have to go. Megan Kelly standing by. Lovely to see you both. I love when we get in a group.